I've got a very serious question for you.
What's up?
Can you poop without going pee?
If you poop, you pee. Every time.
Pee every time I poop, without fail.
It's just a fact. It should be common knowledge, but a lot of people don't know that every time you poop, you pee.
It is just one of those facts of life. I lost my father at a fairly young age, and that's one of those questions that I wish I would have had a little bit more time so I could have asked him.
Got no blast. We put the past on blast. Hit them with the truth, with things you never knew. Nobody is safe, no thing to place. Got Joel and Coop with history in your face. Got a blast.
You know that some people cry every time they poop.
What?
It's actually a thing.
Wait, what?
Yeah, not like, but like, for a large percentage of people, when you take a shit, it activates your tear ducts a little bit. Like you don't.
It's a
fully
spiritual experience.
Cry, but no, but you actually get watery eyes. I have it.
If I have to pee bad enough, then my eyes will water when I take a piss.
Yeah, it's like that. But yeah, but some people apparently like every time they shit, like they get watery eyes up to the amount of like a tear. Now,
Holy
that's a
shit.
beautiful,
Well, I mean,
that's a beautiful turd.
I've had some tears come out while I'm taking a shit, but it's just because they were big ones.
Well, that's different. Yeah, if it hurts, you cry because you're weak.
Yeah, if it hurts, that means it's working.
That's when it goes in, Coop.
Well, welcome to the Iconoblast Podcast. This is the show that takes a look behind the public facades of famous icons to show you why you can never take anything at face value. My name is Cooper, and joining me, as always, is the legendary shitter, Joel Benner.
What's up? I
Legendary
poop sometimes.
shitter with a legendary turd cutter. One of my favorites.
Yeah. I actually learned at a young age to pinch it off halfway and then release the second half, or else I'm clogging it.
you had to split it into 2 sessions.
Mm-hmm. And I also flush before I wipe.
What?
Yeah, because if you mix my turd with toilet paper, the chances of it clogging are extreme. So I always flush. It also so good point, good tip. Public pooping, or even just at home, if you're with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever they identify as, you hold your shit long enough where it's time to shit. Then you can drop that thing out in like 10 seconds and you flush right as it hits the toilet. No smell.
Well, that's the term that they use for that in prison is put some water on it. Keeps the smell down, especially if you're crammed in a room with 6 other guys.
Yeah, if you flush right
or
after
so I've
that,
heard. I've never been there myself.
If you flush right after that poop drops, very little smell. Then you wipe up and flush again. Less smell, less chance of clogging. Everybody should be doing it.
It's kind of strange how the older you get, the more you have to manage those things. Mm-hmm. That was never a concern for me when I was a kid.
Well, we didn't.
So if I clogged the toilet, it wasn't my problem.
Fix it, yeah.
Yeah, to be young again, just shitting free. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice. So what have you been up to since the last time I saw you?
Not much. Working.
Working? Nah, boring.
Life's about work.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing also. I went hiking over the weekend, which was nice. That's the reason I've got this nice sun-kissed appearance, and by sun-kissed appearance, I mean I burnt the fucking shit out of myself.
Are you sunburnt?
Oh yeah, can you not tell on camera?
I'm colorblind. I don't see red.
Oh, that's right. You don't see color, sure.
I don't see pink because I'm not gay.
I'm not pink. I'm like lobster red right now. My arms have gotten a little bit better, but my nose is all fucked up.
That's cool. That's what you get for doing something dumb like walk on hills.
Hey, I had a good reason to do it, all right?
Oh, I want to walk in the sun for no reason.
It was fun.
There's not even alcohol when you go hiking. Unless you bring it yourself, then it's okay.
There's not alcohol anywhere unless you bring it yourself.
That's not true. See, my wife and I go for walks, and you would think that that's kind of fucking lame. But no, because we're always walking to bars or restaurants or places that are cool. When you go hiking, you're like, oh, a fucking tree and a fucking waterfall. Oh, a lake.
Well, I didn't see any waterfalls, but you realize that you can take alcohol and drugs with you when
Well,
you
that's
go
what I'm
hiking,
saying. If
right?
you take it, then it's okay, but it's still dumb. Humans aren't meant for nature. That's why we build houses and have technology.
Humans literally spent the majority of their existence
And
in
no
nature.
one
What we're
liked it.
doing now is unnatural. But yeah,
No, what we're doing
changing it
now
because
is
nobody
fixing it.
liked it.
Because it's stupid.
Are we swapping roles here?
No,
Usually you're the one arguing against progress.
No, I am. I didn't call it progress.
It's advancing in a different direction.
It's not advancing either. I don't think so. I don't agree with that.
Well, I mean, what else would you call it?
It's fighting against nature.
Yeah, which is like one of the oldest traditions of the species.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's progression or better or anything. Except for me, it's better because I'm so sick and tired of nature. I hate lakes. I hate trees. It just happened as I got old. I used to love it. I loved camping, going to the beach, and all that fucking stupid shit. It's dumb. You want to have
how do you
peace and
feel
quiet,
about,
you like look at a picture of it, and then that's enough to get me by. You know.
Look at a picture of it in the middle of Austin, and that's
Yeah.
enough peace and quiet.
Well, the thing is, moving to this shithole made me realize that it didn't make me any less depressed, and it didn't make me any happier being closer or further away from the beach. It's all just like what you train your brain to care about. Like everyone that's obsessed with like the beach. Oh, the beach is my soul, and it cleans me and it nurtures me. Like, no, you've just decided that's what it is. You could pick that the wall does that, and if you really believe it, it'll do the same thing.
I think there's a couple extra steps involved in that process, but maybe that's just for me. Maybe I don't have the same amount of control over my mentality as you do.
Sure.
So have you ever heard of the Ustasi?
That name sounds familiar, but I know nothing about him.
I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned it to you at least once or twice because
It's
it's
like your favorite group, right? Like you look up to them and you want to be them.
I respect anybody who's passionate about their job, who's passionate about what they do, and they're willing to go above and beyond the call of duty. No, I don't respect the Ustasi at all. The Ustasi are, to me, so in terms of horrific things that have happened in relatively recent history, I'm talking like the last 100 years, there's pretty much three groups that occupy the top three positions, maybe four, but I don't want to get into the fucking commies or else I'm going to be raging about them for the rest of the night. But number one for me, Unit 731, the horrific experiments that the Japanese carried out.
Making people wear Hawaiian shirts while they torture them.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Nobody should be forced to wear a Hawaiian shirt against their will.
No.
You can kill me all you want. Do not make me wear a Hawaiian shirt.
If you want to wear one, go for it. It's one of those things. Like, if you're in the mood to wear a Hawaiian shirt, it moves you out of your cage. It lets you be more free. You'll hit on more chicks, might get beat up, but you're in that mindset. If you don't want to wear a Hawaiian shirt and you have to wear it, it's like if you don't want to be in public because you have a hangover and then you have to go, you know?
Well, I'd say
it's
the only thing that increases in likelihood if you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt isn't your ability to pick up chicks. It doesn't make you more social. It does increase your chances of getting your ass kicked, though.
True. Dude, Bob,
from my experience.
Remember Bob, the neighbor? Weirdo Bob. He always wears Hawaiian shirts.
And nobody's going to fuck with him because he's intimidating.
Well, he's got a cane, and I think he was in the Navy, he said. I don't know. He doesn't even remember. He can't remember worse than me, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, he's like this weird hermit dude with one leg that walks around with a cane. Well, he's got two legs, but like one that works.
I was going to say, did he just lose one recently? Because when I was living there, he still had both.
When he goes to the corner store next to the apartment, he has to walk all the way around by the trash cans that's on the other side of the store because that's where the handicap ramp is because he can't get up like a curb, you know?
He can't even step up a curb?
Can't step up a curb. He walks all the way around. I watch him.
At that point in my life, just euthanize me. Please just euthanize me.
So I've always felt bad for him. My wife has brought him like watermelon and treats and stuff once in a while, and we've made friends with him. I just thought he was this sad, lonely man. But now I know why he wears the Hawaiian shirts. I think I told you about this on the phone a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was dead, remember?
I thought he was dead,
the
but
lights
it turned
were
out he
off
just went
and
to Hawaii.
everything was the same. I'm like, oh, fuck, he's dead in there. No one gives a fuck about this guy. I almost went to knock on his door, and then I saw him. He came back. He goes to Hawaii once or twice a year. He said he's been there 45 times.
45 fucking times?
Yeah. And he's got like a community there. He told me all about it. That's where all his friends are. He just can't afford to live there off his like military pension.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask why he didn't just move there, but
yeah, that's
probably for the same reason that I don't move there. It's too goddamn expensive.
Yeah. Well, now he's smart. I'm like, oh, okay, there's more to this guy than meets the eye, you know? He's living in that shithole apartment like I am to save money to party twice a year in Hawaii. And that, I think that's fucking badass. And I thought that he had brain damage from like a war injury or something. No. It's from fucking partying. He has a cane and he walks funny because he's a fucking rager and he can't stop. He's like 65, still going to Hawaii and partying. Anyway, that's way off topic.
Yeah, just a little off topic.
Speaking of badass partying Hawaiians.
Let's talk about war criminals. So no, like I was saying, to me, Unit 731 is taking the first spot on the list. Number 3 on the list, and this may surprise you, number 3 on the list for me is the Nazis. Because it firmly at number 2 is the Ustasi. Because the Ustasi are the only group that the Nazis looked at and went like, oh, those guys are fucking crazy.
Whoa. So we're doing a fucked up episode.
I should preface this in advance by saying if you are sensitive to warning, if you are semi-sensitive to graphic descriptions of violence, murder, and torturing, you might want to tune out some parts of this episode, primarily in the second half of the episode. First half of the episode's background, but things are going to get a little rough here in a bit.
Bitchin'.
The reason the Ustasi stuck with me so much is because first of all, there's a whole lot of documentation, like picture documentation of shit that they did. You can find tons of pictures online of them proudly carrying out horrific acts.
Oh, fuck.
Very, very graphic pictures online.
Are you going to tell me what they are, or are you going to have to wait and find out?
You're going to have to wait and find out.
Okay.
We'll go through the whole list.
Okay. I mean, I've heard the name and I know they're fucked up, but I don't even know like where they're from, or I don't know shit. So this is interesting already. Wow, Coop, what a great topic. Finally, a bad person.
If you're brutal enough that the Nazis are telling you to chill the fuck out, you know you're pretty goddamn brutal. Godwin's law asserts that as an online discussion continues, the probability of a reference or comparison to Hitlers or Nazis approaches 1. This is because to the average person, there is no greater extreme of evil than Hitler and the Nazis. But what if it was a group of Nazis arguing online? Who would they compare their ideological enemies to? That would be the Ustasi.
Americans.
The Ustasi were a Croatian oh, please. America has never done anything as bad as that shit in the past. I mean, not on like a governmental level for the most part.
Nuke anyone or anything.
Oh no, we nuked a few Japanese.
We did?
They had Unit 731. You're telling me that you're not going to drop a nuke on those fucks?
True. We should do an episode on that unit.
Unit 731. We'll get around to it at some point. We're going to have to wait a little while after this one, though, because the Ustasi shit gets real brutal real fast. I'm
glad we're doing a fucked up episode. I think it's been a while.
The Ustasi were a Croatian fascist organization active between the years of 1929 and 1945.
They're Croatian.
Their body count yeah, Croatian.
Is that why I always thought Croatia was a bad place? Like growing up,
I mean, that's a decent reason for it. One of the only war criminals that I've ever met in person was from Croatia.
That's cool.
I don't think that really encompasses the entirety of Croatia.
Yeah, it seems like a beautiful place. I want to travel there.
Give it a shot. See how it goes. While their body count was far surpassed by their German big brothers, the cruelty with which they carried out their reign of terror was horrific enough that even the Nazis didn't want to sit at the same table with them in the genocidal high school cafeteria. The ultranationalist organization was founded in Yugoslavia in 1929 with the goal of creating an independent Croatian state. The 17 principles by which they live, which I'm not going through all 17, principles. That's way more principles than
love your
you need to live your
neighbor.
life.
The whole, yeah, I know it.
Yeah, love thy neighbor, kiss the homies on the lips,
Rape
and
thy
don't go to
wives.
bed angry. And
Hear the
you don't have to
limitation
do
of the
that.
women.
Okay, we can add those to the tablets. The 17 principles by which they lived espoused the creation of a new economic system that would be neither capitalist nor communist. They emphasized the importance of Roman Catholicism, which was their preferred religion,
Which is
as
yours.
well. Roman Catholic? Oh no, I'm very far from a Roman Catholic.
Oh, you don't like the
those.
Roman Catholics, right? Because that was after Caesar.
I like the Romans, the old school Romans, pre-Empire Romans. After that, they just kind of turn into Italians for me.
Wait,
So
was
they
Caesar
emphasized
Italian? Sorry,
Where do you think Rome is?
I've always imagined him like super white.
Italians are white.
Yeah, but they look kind of tan.
Yeah, the further south you go, if you're talking about like Sicilians or something like that, but I'm not going to do the whole. Who was it in
Caesar
in
was a
True
Sicilian
Romance?
smuck.
Caesar was not Sicilian. He was a Roman.
Okay, so Romans were white,
Yeah.
but kind of tan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they tan better than I do,
Yeah.
but
Fuck 'em.
yeah,
No
they were,
kidding.
they were white. They
Drink.
were European. The Romans, no. The Italians, yeah, fuck them.
I like Italians. The Italian stallion, dog.
I like Italian food and I like Italian women. Outside of that, couldn't care less.
I feel that way about all races.
Wait, yeah, shit.
I like
Now
their
that I'm
food and
thinking
I like
about
their
it.
women, but everything else they go fuck themselves.
I don't like the food of every country.
What food don't you like? What's
I'm
your
not a
least
fan
favorite
of-
food? Like by race
Least favorite?
or culture? You're gonna have to drink no matter what your answer. Because it's gonna
Yeah,
be
well-
insensitive to somebody.
Okay, so
Someone's
in
feelings will be hurt.
I've got a top two. In the first position, Ethiopian, because they don't eat anything. If I'm going to get food, I want to have food. I don't want to have just a plate of fucking dirt. Second would
Drink.
be Indian food. I don't like curry.
What
Like,
about like
I
chicken
have-
tikka masala?
Can't. Oh God, no, can't stand it.
Okay.
I really actually I hate chicken tikka masala. I think it's just fucking disgusting.
That's
That's just
awesome.
me though.
No, I get that. I really like it when it's
Naan
good. When it's what about
Non bread,
naan?
on the other hand, fucking love it. I have yet to find bread that I don't like.
Ooh, Czech bread. You wouldn't think it. They make dumplings better than any dumpling I've had in my life.
There's a place here in Bernie that sells Czech dumplings,
Ooh, you should try them. They're not as.
and they
They won't
nice
be
place
as
called
good,
Little
but-
Gretel's.
That's cool. It's probably influenced from that Czech town that's in Texas. Because I took my wife there because she is Czech and she speaks it. Obviously, she was able to talk to people there, and we tried some of the food, and she was like, "Yeah, it's close." It's the same like if, even if you're a fucking Mexican and you move from Mexico to New York and you make some tacos, it's not going to be as good because they grow the bread. When you go to Mexico and get a papaya, damn, that papaya is the shit. You can
And
take
when you go to Prague and eat some of their bread, it's fresh off the bread tree.
yeah, yep, exactly. It's exactly true.
Yeah, overall, not a fan of Indian food outside of the bread. Maybe some of the
Okay.
meats. I just don't really care for the seasonings.
But they have good tech though.
Oh yeah, they're fucking brilliant. Like if you go to the doctor and you got an Indian doctor, chances are you're
You'll
going to
be fine.
survive. Yeah.
But you might have to eat some shitty food.
if you
Drink.
eat their shitty fucking food. All right, I'll drink for that.
Yeah, I can't think of any food I hate anymore.
I don't hate like the entirety of a culture's cuisine. There's
Just
certain
specific
things
things,
for everything that I don't like, and chicken tikka masala is probably one of my least favorite things to eat ever.
Yeah, Kaveta had a papaya from Czech, and she was like, I don't like them. And I was like, well, try one in Mexico. And she tried one, and it was, the papayas in Czech are like this big, you know, like the size of what is this the size of for audio listeners?
Your butthole?
Yes, but what if they? But
Something that everybody's going to be familiar with.
So
that would
like
be
the
roughly the size of what, an orange? No, it's
like a
probably
mango.
like the size of a mango or avocado.
yeah, so their papayas are the size of mangoes, and then a papaya in Mexico is like the size of a football or bigger. So
Holy shit!
and they're delicious. They're so good.
Well, you know that right there. Those people are very good with plants, and that's why they're cutting all our grass.
I'll drink.
I'll drink for that.
Oh God.
No, I love the Latin community. I've been a fan of theirs, and I didn't have a white girlfriend for the first time until I was like almost 30.
I know.
Before that, oh yeah, you were there for it.
I'm glad that you're saying that because a lot of people don't know that either. When Coop's talking shit about any culture with darker skin, he's only talking about the men. Loves the women. Loves the ladies.
Yep, have yet to find a culture with women that I don't appreciate. Anyway, so the Ustasi emphasized the importance of Roman Catholicism as well as Islam, so long as the Muslims in question were ethnic Croats or Bosniaks. Most important of all, they called for a racially pure Croatia free from Jews, Roma, and Serbs. Did you know that gypsy is a slur?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
I
until
only
fairly
learned
recently.
that because of my wife. In her country,
Because she
gypsies-
uses it all the time.
Well, we were confused about a long conversation about gypsies, and I was like, "Why are you talking shit?" And she was like, "What do you mean? It's black people."
What?
And I was like, "What? Drink, you know?" And I was like, "Wait, yeah, so yeah, they that's what in Czech at least. That's their version of the N-word."
Gypsy is?
Yeah.
Is there like a cool hip way that you can say it?
Gypser.
Gypsa?
Gypsa.
What's up, my gyps?
No, she
Gyps.
yeah, that's a thing there. Something like that. Maybe I got it wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Well, apparently
Honey,
what you're
I'm
supposed to
sorry if
call
I
them
got
is
it wrong.
you're supposed to call them Roma or Romani or something like that.
Roma?
So between 1929 and 1941, the Ustasi carried out various terrorist attacks, including the assassination of the King of Yugoslavia, Alexander I.
Hugo.
The attack on the king ultimately led to all organizations related to the Ustasi being banned in Europe and the leaders of the groups being imprisoned. The crackdown on the Ustasi members had an unexpected side effects of turning them into counterculture icons, attracting the attention and sympathy of young Croats. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Croats, something like that. I don't know. I had a hard time pronouncing pretty much any of the words in this fucking topic because
Yeah.
they're all spelled weird.
They're all weird.
The attempt to disband the Ustasi had only made their numbers grow. That's something that's stuck around pretty much to this day, where it's kind of funny because they were seen as sort of like as freedom fighters, but also a counterculture movement. So all the kids that wanted to rebel against the mainstream were just like, oh, well, fuck it, I'm just going to be with the Ustasi.
I see. Well, that makes sense, sort of, if you're young, dumb, and full of cum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't I know it. Been there. God, if I had a nickel for every hate group that I joined, I wouldn't be doing podcasts. Having the term racial purity in their mission statement obviously made the Ustasi fans of the Nazis, because shared interests are the foundation of any good friendship.
I'm a friend of killing Nazis.
Me too. Yeah, I'm all for killing the Nazis. My grandpa used to do that, and Well, no, he didn't really do that. He worked on airplane engines back in World War II.
That killed Nazis.
Ideally.
Hopefully.
Even though he was stationed in India. Maybe I have some sort of generational dislike for Indian food because my grandpa was stationed in India during World War II.
That makes sense. The closest I got to killing Nazis is I got to hold a pistol that killed Nazis.
Oh, yeah, that's a good story. Is there anything about that you can talk about?
Just a friend of mine has a
So
gun
I got to hold the same pistol.
Yeah, it's off the grid, passed through the family, and it's killed Nazis pretty much. And there's some cool stories. I can't remember them right now, but it's known for sure that gun has like blown away a couple Nazis.
So I thought that the original owner of the gun, or the ancestor or whatever of the guy who owned it, I thought that he was part of one of those groups that, like one of those Jewish groups that went around killing Nazis.
Yeah, he was in
after World War II.
He was. Oh yeah, okay. So he was in South America, and he was a dancer. That's how he got in. So he was like sort of a famous salsa dancer in South America.
So he was there like
killing Nazis.
He was honeypotting Nazis, luring them back to his room at the end of the night, and then shooting them in the head with the 45.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn hero if I've ever heard of one.
Goddamn right.
So on April 6th, 1941, the Axis powers invaded Yugoslavia, allowing Ustasi leadership to escape and reorganize their followers so they could continue their rampage. This time, however, they had some genocidal big brothers to look up to, and the Ustasi really wanted to impress them.
Genocidal big brother.
So the original group of people that started the Ustasi, once they started off as essentially what was considered a terrorist organization. They would carry out like domestic terrorism, assassinations, a whole lot of bad shit.
Cool shit. Oh, bad shit. Yeah, bad shit.
Bad shit. Where they fucked up is when they assassinated the king of Yugoslavia, they did it while he was in Marseille, France. So that got the French involved, which were arguably a little bit more
back when they were
capable
still tough.
of slightly before they stopped being still wasn't when they were tough. They haven't been tough for a long fucking time.
It was how we are now, but it was the French.
It was right
they
before...
They were still considered tough, but no one knew yet that they were fucking soft.
Yes, it was right before everybody found out that they were a bunch of French pussies.
Like America. No offense.
Nobody's found out about that yet. No, we have to keep that to ourselves.
We just don't know that
it's
everybody
getting bad.
knows.
We don't need to talk about it out loud. They're going to learn it soon enough. So yeah, they assassinated the king of Yugoslavia, and they did it in France, and that got France and Italy involved, and they were the ones that actually helped get these guys locked up and started banning the Ustasi all across Europe. Didn't stick around for long, though, unfortunately. By the summer of 1941, the Ustasi had assembled an army of tens of thousands of Croats willing to fight for independence. And something that's interesting about that is, so after everything kind of got disbanded, once it started being somewhat allowed again, there were these groups that they called the Wild Ustasi, which were people that just believed in the ideology, but they would band together in these unorganized, unassociated groups, and they would just go on these little minor rampages throughout Yugoslavia, killing people, attacking people, causing a ruckus. And they were in the numbers of like 40, 50,000 people, all scattered all over the place. The Ustasi at their peak, I think they had an army of like over 100,000 people.
Damn, I didn't know it was that big.
It got fairly big. I mean, considering that it was in Yugoslavia at the time, that's a decent amount of the population. That I don't know about that. Well, we'll find out. So by the summer of 1941, the Ustasi had assembled an army of tens of thousands of Croats willing to fight for independence. They also began building concentration camps where they carried out atrocities so horrific, it was even making the Nazis a little uncomfortable. As early as July, German officers.
For that.
Yeah, but I don't know about a trophy. Maybe a.
Like it's like the trophy's like 4 Nazis that look scared.
Or I mean, maybe you can just give them a war crimes trial and then execute them right afterwards. I'd say that's a trophy. I mean, in terms of committing war crimes, that's first place. If you get put on trial and executed, you're definitely in first place in terms of war crimes.
Do you think they're first place for war crimes? Close.
I don't know. That's a really tough one. They didn't expand outside their borders. Like they didn't really take their show on the road. So I think that.
So the cocaine godmothers probably got more kills.
Oh no, not by a long shot.
Okay.
But yeah, it'd be I think that'd be a long discussion to determine where they fall in terms of war crimes. I mean, their war crimes were obviously horrible. I mean, absolutely fucking horrible. But you got to take into account like the numbers overall. Like the Germans beat them out in terms of overall numbers. Japan beat them out in terms of overall numbers. I'm pretty sure. You watch your goddamn mouth.
Sorry.
We are in America, and America doesn't do anything wrong. Yes, thank you. Really, if you're talking about the greatest number of deaths resulting from the greatest number of war crimes, I think that it'd probably be Russia that's in first place. Either Russia or China. It's definitely a communist country, though.
Death is sort of like that's sort of giving someone a break. In a way, it could be considered like.
As Captain Hook said, death is the only adventure. So really, they're just sending everybody on a grand adventure.
Well, I think war crimes can be worse than death. There are a lot of things worse than death. Death is sort of like having pity.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hear a bit about that here pretty soon.
Oh God.
As early as July, German officers began reporting that the Ustasi were taking this whole genocide thing a little bit too far. One letter sent by a Wehrmacht general to German high command stated, and I quote, "Our troops have to be mute witnesses of such events. It does not reflect well on their otherwise high reputation." Because, yeah, the Nazis have a great reputation.
In their eyes. Damn.
In their eyes, yes. In the eyes of the majority of the rest of Europe,
this is a Nazi.
Not big fans.
A Nazi is saying this right now.
This is a Wehrmacht general saying this.
So can you do a Nazi?
I could try, but I suck at accents. But yeah, this is a Wehrmacht general.
This is a Nazi
during the reign of the Nazis, saying, "Shit, these guys are making us look bad, man. We gotta disassociate ourselves."
Fuck.
Continuing the quote, "I am frequently told that German occupation troops would finally have to intervene against Ustasi crimes. Right now, with the available forces, I could not ask for such action. Ad hoc intervention in individual cases could make the German army look responsible for countless crimes it could not prevent in the past." So they were worried that the Ustasi were carrying out such horrific war crimes that they were worried that just by association, it was going to make the Germans look bad. And at this time, the Germans are already committing war crimes.
Yeah. God
They're damn. Worried about the reputation of the Nazis in comparison to the Ustasi. So they were bad fucking dudes is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. It's all about perception, right? Like if everybody is that bad, then everything's fine.
I mean, it's all about how you look at it. One man's 9 is another man's 6.
Silver lining, dude.
It's all about perspective. To create an ethnically pure Croatia, the Ustasi intended on ridding the country of Serbs. And to do this, they put a plan in motion that would kill 1/3 of the Serb population, expel 1/3, and forcibly convert the last third to Catholicism. The Ustasi also enacted race laws patterned after their pals in the Third Reich. And then the slaughter began. And again, fair warning, now we're starting to get into the real heavy shit. if you're sensitive, it's probably a good idea not to listen to the rest. I really didn't. I know, like, if we're talking about something on Crime Corner or some other events throughout history, we'll kind of leave out some of the more gruesome details, but I really want everybody to understand how fucking brutal and horrible the Ustasi were.
No, that's the point of this show. Maybe you hide some shit on Crime Corner, but on Iconoblast, we tell the truth in detail.
We're going to be getting into some pretty graphic detail right about now. Within the first few months of the Ustasi's terror campaign, thousands upon thousands of Serbs were massacred. A Catholic bishop gave an account of mass killings he witnessed in Herzegovina as follows. And this is a direct quote from a Catholic bishop who witnessed these crimes being carried out.
They killed my sex children.
They wouldn't even let me fuck the little boys before they killed them. It was horrible. People were captured like beasts, slaughtered, killed, thrown live into the abyss. The vice mayor of Mostar publicly states that 700 Serbs were thrown into one single pit.
Damn.
6 full train carriages of women, mothers, and girls, children under the age of 10, were taken into the hills with live mothers and their children tossed down the cliffs.
Fuck.
Everyone was tossed and killed. In the Klepki parish, from the surrounding villages, 3,700 Serbs were killed. Poor souls, they were calm. Calmly going to their own brutal death, and this is within months of the Axis powers taking over Yugoslavia. As soon as they took over Yugoslavia, it's like they just gave the Ustasi free rein to do whatever the fuck they wanted, as long as it didn't make them look bad. A surprising number of reports condemning the actions of the Ustasi came from German officers themselves. One of these officers, General von Horstenau, described a massacre carried out in a village near an Ustasi-run concentration camp. About 500 15 to 20-year-old thugs descended under the leadership of a Ustasi lieutenant colonel. People were killed everywhere. Women were raped and tortured to death, and children were killed. I saw in the Sava River the corpse of a young woman with her eyes dug out and a stake driven into her sexual parts. This woman was at most 20 years old when she fell into the hands of these monsters. All around, pigs devoured unburied human beings. Fortunate residents were shipped in terrifying freight cars. Many of these involuntary passengers cut their veins during transport to the camp. And it's honestly for the best that they killed themselves on the way to the camp, because once they got to these concentration camps that the Ustasi set up, it's really, really, it's difficult and kind of fucked up to compare crimes like this. But if I had to choose between going to a Nazi concentration camp or going to an Ustasi concentration camp, there's no question in my mind that I would prefer to be in a Nazi concentration camp.
That's insane.
By comparison, the Nazis were fucking humanitarians. It's unreal the level of brutality that the Ustasi carried out their crimes with. This is one of those groups where I've seen a lot of fucked up shit on the internet. I've read a lot of fucked up stories. I've spent a lot of time researching history, and there's been horrific things happening all throughout history. Reading about what Unit 731, the Ustasi, and the Nazis did at some of these camps are the things that really, really get to me. And
they get under the skin, yeah.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers, dude.
Serbs, Jews, Roma, and Croatian dissidents were also interned in concentration camps, the largest of which was Jasenovac. It was here that some of the worst atrocities occurred, and hell on earth doesn't even begin to describe the horrors that took place. The acts carried out at Jasenovac have been said to surpass even the horrors of Auschwitz. While both camps were built to carry out murder on a massive scale, the manner in which the killings took place at Jasenovac were far more brutal. Using knives, hammers, axes, and saws, the Ustasi slaughtered tens of thousands of men, women, and children.
With fucking blunt weapons and shit. Jesus.
Very, a surprisingly small percentage of this attempted genocide was carried out using firearms. They tried to set up some gas chambers. Their biggest concentration camp, Jasenovac, didn't have any gas chambers. So
they were just
pretty much all the killings there, very, like I said, comparatively, it was a very, very small percentage that were killed by firearms or gas chambers. They did use furnaces a lot, similar to the Nazis. Pretty much everybody that went into the furnace was completely alive, fully aware, and just got cooked alive. But even the amount of people that were killed in the furnaces and killed by the gas chambers, killed by firearms, very small percentage compared to the amount that were just killed by hand weapons.
Fuck. Imagine having to be the one to do it, too. I mean, not to take anything away from the one suffering from it, but...
I've got a story about the people doing it coming up here in a second. There were some difficulties to it, but they weren't moral difficulties. It was just the strain of the physical actions of killing people. So most of the men sent to Jasenovac were killed immediately. As victims stepped off the train, they were grabbed by waiting guards who would either crush their skulls with mallets or cut their throats with a blade. So many victims were murdered each day that the executioners began to develop repetitive stress injuries in their wrists. To solve this problem, a special knife known as a Serb cutter was created.
Holy shit. Serb cutter.
So a Serb cutter...
That's a dope band name.
It would be a good band name if I didn't know the backstory of it.
Yeah.
A Serb cutter was a modified farming tool known as a wheat sheaf knife. In place of a normal handle, the blade was affixed to a leather cuff somewhat similar to fingerless gloves. The 4.5-inch curved blade extended from the bottom of the cuff and had a razor-sharp edge on its concave side. The design reduced the strain on the hands and wrist of the executioners because, even the Ustasi, they don't want to have to pay workers' comp for carpal tunnel syndrome or anything like that. They literally did start assigning this specific type of knife to their guards because their guards were executing so many people with knives on a daily basis that they were injuring themselves.
Yeah.
So to cut down on that, it's so imagine like a leather wristband that has a thumb hole that you put your thumb through, or like fingerless gloves where you cut that all the fingers off.
Dumb looking archery band that archers use, right?
Yeah, kind of similar to something like that. It looks a surprising amount like one of the wrist braces that you would get if you had carpal tunnel.
Yeah,
except
that's what I'm imagining.
Right at the bottom of your palm, you've got a 4.5-inch curved blade. And you don't even have to squeeze your hand shut. You can leave your hand open. All you have to do is just drag it across the neck. And they were going through so many people every single day that they needed that to get the job done. They were killing so many people that it was injuring their own people.
What the fuck? That would make me, even if I believed in somehow I believed in it and had to do that job, you would go insane.
You would think so. You really would think so. I have yet to find any accounts of somebody who took part in these Ustasi massacres that has shown any level of remorse at all.
That's a strong
I've read accounts of
belief then. God damn.
I've read accounts of concentration camp guards that have remorse for what they took part in, but they were just following orders, as they like to say. Even one of the most prolific executioners in Soviet Russia, who killed a couple hundred people in a single night by himself, he had enough shame that he eventually killed himself later in life. And God bless him for it. I hope he's rotting in hell. But there's so few situations.
Least he felt guilty about it.
At the very least, he had the guilt. And he took himself out of the equation because he had it coming one way or another. But again, I have yet to hear a single account of a former Ustasi guard showing some sort of remorse for what they did, because to them this was essentially a holy war. They were cleansing their society from all of the undesirables, and holy shit, a whole lot of those people were on board with it and didn't feel bad about it.
They believed in it so much that they really thought they were doing something good.
Yeah, belief is a very powerful and dangerous tool. I think we had a conversation about that the other night. Like,
when you
3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, when we were both real shit-faced and had a long philosophical conversation. That was a great conversation, by the way.
Yeah, it was about the what was it, like the power of science, religion, belief, and there was another one.
It was the longest stoner conversation that I've had since high school.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it though.
Oh yeah, in the fog of war.
You know what? I gotta. The quote that you had that night was so good. I have to pull that up and read it verbatim, because I remember right after you said it, we were talking about how to keep. It was like how to keep men.
It's the theory of unfortunately, it's human nature that you have to like go through some suffering to become a good person.
Yeah, because it's the conversation that we were having was the necessity of difficulty in life for people to really stay healthy or to continue to develop or continue to try.
Bullshit they're doing in the UFC, like you freeze yourself and heat yourself, and they're seeing that releases chemicals and makes your body stronger.
You put your body under duress so it gets stronger.
You realize the importance of doing these certain good things are important because I experienced these bad things. You know, like you have to go through bad experiences or go through some sort of serious, uncomfortable situations just to become a good person.
I think that pretty much everything in life is similar to the way that a callus develops on your hands. The more stress that you get put under, the more difficulty that you face. It's like building muscle, building up calluses, building up any sort of mental resilience.
It can make you, you can break and become something fucking evil, but there has to be a right amount on the average, just like anything. Like every human needs a certain amount of suffering or pain to be the best of that they can be. Unfortunately,
the perfect amount of suffering that encourages the greatest amount of growth.
Yes.
Which has to be a very, very fine line.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, I remember specifically, which I'm surprised I remember anything from the tail end of that night, but I remember specifically that you were talking about rites of passage that they used to have back in the day, similar to a quinceañera, but with a lot more violence.
Oh, yeah,
and your specific quote was, when their balls drop, beat the shit out of them, put them on drugs, and send them into the forest. That's how you make a man, according to Joel. That's how you make a man.
That's how the Native Americans did it. Right?
I agree. I wish I would have gone that at 13 instead.
You don't want to do it, but you probably learn, like, one day or 1 week of suffering, you probably learn way more than, like, getting a little spank on the wrist for 20 years. So you can learn, like, 20 years of slap on the wrists from one horrible night. Or something like that is the idea.
I'd rather get it out of the way all at once too.
Yeah, in the fog of war. Remember,
it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, except you're on peyote and you're in the middle of a forest filled with dangerous animals.
Yeah, and if you die, then you die.
If he dies, he dies.
Not strong enough to live here, you know. What was the other thing that we realized is that ants see. Like,
well, this was a
silent.
This was a you realization. I had to spend about an hour interpreting it, so it made sense to me. I'll let you try and explain it, and I'll explain it the way that I saw it if you want.
It's unexplainable, but basically, we end up talking about this many times, but I always try to look at the idea of, because we all think we're like the smartest, and there's no other creatures or animals already here. And I think there has to be, because when you look at ants or deer, like the smaller something is, or the more primitive something is, however you want to look at it, it's all in tiers. Like the smarter you get, the things that aren't as smart as you don't even know you're there. So, like, for example, monkeys kind of know we're there, but they don't know we're smarter than them. All they know is we give them food or whatever. Deer, you go smaller, you go dumber. What's dumber than a deer? Like rabbits and shit. Rabbits have no idea what we are. We're the same as lions, bears. They have no concept of what really it is. They just know that kills me. This is food. When you get to like ants, they can be literally walking on another living creature, and they have no fucking idea that they're literally standing on a human. They have no clue. So I feel like that scale is just like the universe. Ants don't. There's little things. There's molecules and little fucking creatures on ants that don't even know they're on an ant. So that has to, if it goes all the way that way, it has to go all the way this way. So we are doing the same thing. There is a version of something we don't understand at all, just like ants don't understand that we exist. That's the theory behind it. And then to make that make sense, it's the fog of war from fucking Silent Hill.
See, that was the part that took me so long to understand, because you started off, you were talking about how outer space.
Ants can't see us. Right here. I'm right fucking here. They can't.
They can see parts of us. They've got those
they
tiny
cannot
little
see
multifaceted eyes, though.
They can just sense locations, and their entire vision is based off of the smell of the other ants.
Well, the part that it took me so long to understand was when you were saying, like, well, what if, because I want to again reiterate, we were extremely stoned. What if outer space is just stuff that's like too far beyond our comprehension? Yeah. So that's just what we see as outer space.
That's what it was.
It took a good hour
outer space
of discussion for me to understand what the fuck you were talking about. But yeah, once we compared it to
I even forgot. Yeah,
the fog in Silent Hill, then it made sense. Yeah. It's just outside of our render range. For other
the only reason why outer space looks like it is, and it seems so crazy and insane, is because literally it's out of our render range. It's the fog of war effect.
We don't have enough processing power to
can't see it.
To load that into the
can't see it.
I mean, it could be. I can't prove you wrong.
I think it's 100% fact.
All right, we'll go with that.
Can't prove me wrong.
Oh boy, going from a non-serious conversation into literally the most serious part of the entire fucking episode.
Had to lighten it up before we go to hell again.
Yeah, it's good to have a nice brief reprieve, because holy shit, the Ustasi were fucked up. The guards carrying out the execution were sadistic and entirely without remorse. On the night of August 29th, 1942, a group of guards placed bets on who could murder the most inmates before dawn.
Wait, Columbus was discovering America at the exact same time?
Oh, sorry, I forgot your
14.
dyslexic. Yeah, it was 1492. We're in 1942.
Yeah. The 4 looks like a 9 on paper.
The winner of this contest, who was a sick fuck named Peter Wait, maybe you know how to pronounce this, Joel. It's Slavic. Brzica. Brzica?
I'd have to see it. I think K's are pronounced with J's.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to call this. I'm going to call this guy Peter Fuckhead.
Peter Fuckface. Yeah, I like that.
Care about pronouncing his name right. So the winner of the contest, Peter Fuckhead, cut the throats of over 1,300 Serbs in a matter of hours.
Holy shit.
1,300 people killed by a single person in a single night.
Hours.
It
was a contest. Competition? Jesus.
It was a competition. It was a competition amongst a group of guards who, by the way, the runners-up all had kills between 600 and 1,000 people in a night.
And so the way that this would at the same time?
Well, the way that this would go down is a train pulls into the camp, they open up the doors, and as people come off the train, they're just grabbing them, cutting their throat with the Serb cutter, throw their bodies off to the side. They've got other people there that are picking up the bodies and carting them away so they, don't get in the way of, so they don't clutter up all this room for activities that they have. And it's literally just one after the other as these people come off the train, they grab them, slit their throats, grab them, slit their throats, grab them, slit their throats.
Right,
and this goes on for hours and hours. And so even if you get real good at your job, a lot of those people aren't dying instantly.
No.
So there's people laying around, like, just, it's fucked up. This is supposed to be, an entertaining podcast, but just try and picture this for a minute. There's thousands of people on these trains. One by one, they're getting pulled off and they're having their throats slit. They're not all dying
people
right
can
away.
Live for a week with a slit throat.
And there's people dead and dying, laying all over the ground. The ones that aren't dead yet, if they don't bleed out fast enough, they're probably just going to walk up and smash their heads with a hammer. And they're doing this not just for hours on end over the course of a single night. They're doing this for hours on end over the course of like 1 to 2 years.
Good Lord.
I don't know how anybody can maintain their sanity in that situation, regardless of what side of the equation you're on. Whether you're the one carrying out the killings, or if you're one of the people that has some sort of specialized skill where you're an inmate at the camp, but you have some sort of skill that makes you valuable to keep you around. You're living in that situation where
you're the train guy.
There's people being murdered by the hundreds, if not thousands, on a daily basis. And they're doing all of this with hand weapons. Like, it's very personal. It's not like herding a bunch of people into a gas chamber, which is still horrific. But herding a bunch of people into a gas chamber or lining a bunch of people up on a firing squad is much less personal than either beating them to death with a hammer.
Less painful?
I think it's all going to suck one way or another. If, like I said earlier,
once you choke out, once you fall asleep, it's over.
It might be.
You get to hold your friends while you suffer.
Honestly, all of it sounds so fucking horrible that I wouldn't want to go through any of it.
Don't even want to compare. Why compare?
If like I said, if I had to choose between going to Jasenovac or Auschwitz, I would choose Auschwitz because there's a good chance that the death is going to be less painful.
Yeah.
It's still all horrible, but if I had to choose,
Jasenovac you always want to choose the least amount of pain.
Yeah. So I would go to Auschwitz or Bergen-Belsen or, literally any of the German concentration camps I would choose over Jasenovac or any of the Ustasi concentration camps.
Yeah. But
it gets worse.
Which one would you work at? Which one has better benefits? Because I'm trying to
whichever one,
I got 5 kids to feed.
Whichever pays better and ideally has dental insurance.
Oh, God.
We got a drink for that. That's fucked up.
That's some fucked up shit. I mean, it would suck. Like, imagine if you were a fucking Nazi soldier involved in this shit too. Like, you have to do your job.
What do you mean? One of the occupiers of Yugoslavia, or one of the guards?
Any situation where your country or your belief system, where you live or what you've grown up in, whatever you're a part of, like, you don't. I mean, you do have a choice. You get to make a choice. Everyone does. But if you're a part of it and then all this is happening around you and you have to go to war like they had to, like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at, but I feel bad for all of them. Even the people having to kill people. Like, I don't even like killing the cockroaches in my fucking house. I don't want to kill a human.
Okay, I love killing cockroaches because I hate them so fucking much. So after living in that apartment, I definitely want to kill them. So that
must be part of the belief of these fucking psychopaths. They're not killing humans. Like, they fully believe they're not. They're just killing cockroaches.
That's the way that it has to be done if you're going to do it on a large scale. Because you can find, anywhere you go, you can find a handful of people that you give them a pocket knife and go tell them to cut up an entire family. They'll go do it without an issue.
They don't have a problem with it, yeah.
But if you're going to be doing it on a large scale, that's the reason that any sort of military indoctrination, including in America, like when I went through basic training, we go through the same thing. You always have to dehumanize the enemy, because if you see him as human, you're not going to be able to fight him and kill him as effectively.
Right.
So something like that, it's a necessary evil in terms of the world that we're living in. But when you're setting up these camps, these extermination camps, I don't understand how anybody can possibly have the mindset where what they're doing is the right thing or something that they can live with. Right. But with the Ustasi, it was almost a 100% approval rate for everyone that was involved in the situation. They took pride in it. They would try to be more brutal than their peers just to show that they were more dedicated to the cause than everyone else. And that's one of the major issues with groupthink. Any sort of mob mentality, that's the kind of shit that you're going to get out of it. Is you have a bunch of people that aren't thinking for themselves. They're not analyzing the situation. They're just doing whatever it takes to get the approval and respect of everyone around them. And that's why I don't care what group it is. If it's a group, I'm going to question the motives.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start falling in line with everything they say, eventually it's going to get to the point where you're going to be doing things that you wouldn't normally do just to stay with the group.
Right.
So that's why you should be a loner living in a basement or, living out in the woods. Well, no, that fucking leads to manifestos also. Shit.
You live alone and you just kill your parents instead of an entire country.
Now, see, that I can get behind. At least you're keeping it within the family. You're not affecting anybody else's family.
Everybody, yeah.
And yeah, what happens in your family is your own business. I knew this episode was going to be dark.
Yeah, fuck it.
So Jasenovac was built along the Sava River. Supplies and equipment were delivered via a ramp in the river called Granik. During the growing and harvesting seasons, inmates were used as manual labor to unload boats, but during the winter, when agricultural shipments stopped, the Ustasi guards liquidated the unnecessary laborers. And these murders were exceptionally cruel and brutal. Because I think this particular process, I guess you could say, only happened between 1944 and the winter between 1944 and 1945. And this was even towards the tail end of the war, where they already saw that the Axis powers were on the losing side. They were still carrying out everything that they wanted to do for as long as they can. And for some reason, they got even more fucking brutal about it towards the end, when they knew that they were on the losing side. They knew that they were going to have to either answer for their crimes or do something to avoid answering for their crimes.
Yeah.
And they just got that much more fucked up. Because so what we're getting into now, this was the first story that I ever heard about the Ustasi. And that's the reason that I started researching them. And I found out about this years ago. And it wasn't until I started writing this episode that I read through it again, because going through it once was more than enough without having a reason to go through it again.
Yeah. Oh boy.
For around 20 days, Ustasi guards would collect hundreds of inmates, strip them naked, tie them up with wire, and march them to the Granik ramp on the Sava River. There, they would chain two victims together. One prisoner would have their stomach cut open and their throat slit. Then the other prisoner would be hit in the head with a mallet, sending both of them into the freezing river to die slowly. The Sava became filled with so many corpses that bodies lined the banks and blocked the waterway.
Fuck.
The way that there are plenty of ways to kill people. There's a whole lot of ways that you could kill somebody, and there's a whole lot of ways that you can kill someone semi-humanely, or at least as humanely as killing someone can be. Tying two people together, slitting the throat and stomach of one of them, totally unnecessary, and then you hit the other one in the head with a mallet so they act as a dead weight to drag them both into the river, where one of them, most likely the one who got disemboweled and had their throat slit, they're probably going to die first. The person that got hit in the head with the mallet, they're going to dragged down by the body, or they're slowly going to die from hypothermia if they end up in the right position where they're just sitting in this freezing cold water in the middle of winter. There's nothing about that makes any goddamn sense. There is, even if what you're trying to do is just wipe out as many people, like even accounting for the fact that they're committing genocide, they're even doing that in a fucking inhumane manner.
Yeah.
Like there was no reason to do that with the...
It's just to torture them.
I really just can't even wrap my mind around...
Did they like think these people were like evil, like the demons or something?
They were looking at them the same way that they would see them and talk about them the same way that the Germans would talk about the Jews during World War II, or the same way that they would talk about homosexuals, mentally deficient people, the Romas, any of the undesirables. They looked at them as essentially vermin that had to be eradicated for everybody else to succeed. And I think
that rats need to be killed sometimes, or if you've got like a serious problem with pigeons shitting everywhere, making everyone sick, you don't torture them, you just kill them all.
Even when I have to kill a rat or kill a bug or anything like that,
fast as possible,
I still make it as fast and as clean as possible.
Remember when we killed that rat at the old apartment in California?
That could have been a little bit cleaner and a little bit faster.
But even then, that rat would have died, but it would have probably took a couple hours, so I'd had to cut its head off.
Yeah, which was an act of mercy.
And it sucked to do it.
It wasn't that we had...
I didn't want it to sit there in pain.
We didn't have any personal grudge against the rat. The rat just happened to be living in our oven and pissing all over our pots and pans and eating all of our food.
If you tried to cook food, it
couldn't
smelled
cook anything.
So bad.
It smelled like rat piss. We had no other way to get rid of it aside from just killing the fucking thing, and we tried to do it as humanely as possible. Mm-hmm. We're just not very good at killing things because we don't have a whole lot of practice anymore.
Yeah, that sucked because the knife was pretty dull, and I remember as I was sawing its neck, its eyeball popped out of its head.
Yeah, I've got way too many memories like that from hunting animals when I was growing up, and that's why I don't really do a whole lot of hunting anymore.
What you just said, it like, even if it's necessary, quote unquote, even in their situation, okay, this is my job. Well, then just do it as humanely as possible. To your ability of it. It's not the opposite.
As brutal as that sounds, it just makes sense. Like there's no reason to add more suffering to it. If you have a goal, find the most efficient path to the goal.
Yeah,
they weren't finding the most efficient path. Like they were just having fucking fun.
Yeah, it's like the that video that came out. It was a whole thing. There's like a doc about it. Like the employers of some company or multiple companies. I don't remember it specifically, but I remember the video. It's all they're doing is shaving sheep. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-mm. So it's just they're just making wool for clothes and shit for us. And someone snuck a camera in there, and literally for no reason, it's all these dudes. Apparently they're all like, the people that work at those have a hard time getting jobs because they're all ex-criminals, or when you're an ex-criminal, you end up working at slaughterhouses or at these sheep places. But literally, it's just one sheep at a time. You just have to shave the sheep, take the wool, and let the sheep out the other side. And they're fucking taking their razors and jamming it in their heads, picking up the sheep for no reason and body slamming them and like kicking them in the skull, knocking them out, shaving them. Like every single sheep is like covered in blood because they're like pushing super hard for no fucking reason, laughing and like throwing like the sheep around for fun. And then they shave them and throw
I can
them
actually
out
tell
the
you
other
the
side.
I can tell you the exact reason for somebody to do something like that. The exact reason that somebody would do something like that is because they're such a pathetic coward that has so much rage built up against the world because they can't get their shit together, that the only thing that they can do is take it out on something that can't fight back.
Yeah. Fuck every one of those guys. I hate
They're
that.
pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Just like all these Ustasi motherfuckers.
Yep.
These guys make me so fucking mad.
Yeah. I'm getting mad. And there's none around that we can go kill right now.
Oh, go to Argentina. You're going to find Ustasi and Nazis down there.
That's true.
Not all Argentinians, but they were friendly to the losers of World War II.
Yeah, I don't have the aggression. My aggression doesn't stay. I have a temper. So it would have to be, I would have to listen to this episode and then look over and there's one right
real
there.
Passionate, and then there's one right there.
There, I would kill that motherfucker, you know. Otherwise, who cares? Like within an hour of this, I'll be like, yeah.
You've got the object permanence of a murderous infant.
Yeah, like the episode we did about the cell phones and learning that my cell phone is basically slave labor and I'm responsible for slaves. I felt bad. You know what I did? I turned my phone off for about 3 hours, and then I was like,
Like, why's my phone off?
Yeah, I need.
Probably got a bunch of messages to text or a bunch of messages to check.
Yeah.
The unimaginable brutality of the Ustasi was beyond comprehension. Victims who weren't given the mercy of a swift death were subjected to horrific torture and mutilation. Like I said, this wasn't just to reach a goal. They were doing this because they enjoyed it. And I know I can't make a blanket statement and say that that's how it was for everybody that was a member of the Ustasi.
Yeah.
But it was
for the majority,
surprisingly common.
Yeah.
Hot metal spikes were inserted under their fingernails. Eyes were gouged out. Ears and noses were cut off. And some had chains tightened around their heads until the bones fractured and their eyes popped out of their skulls.
What the fuck? Oh.
To make things a little bit worse, handsaws were often used to dismember inmates while they were still alive, and thousands were decapitated with axes. These are some of the other things that you can actually find pictures of because they weren't shy about documenting the shit that they were doing in terms of taking pictures. Because to them, what they were doing was, it was like the ultimate act of patriotism for their country that they were trying to form, was being as brutal as possible to the Serbs.
What's the chain shit again?
So they would have a chain wrapped around their head, and they would tighten the chain around their head until it crushed the skull and popped their eyeballs out of their head.
And they're alive.
And they're alive the entire time. Well, I mean, up until their skull gets crushed. I'm pretty sure that death follows hopefully fairly quickly after that.
Death blooms shortly after that.
In the space between a blink and a tear.
Well,
something else that... So
you get your head chopped off, you live for like... You're conscious for like 7 more seconds or something. Is that true?
I've heard a bunch of different things. Like I've heard that some people can...
At least with the...
Like the head can live for up to 2 minutes after they've been executed. And I've heard other things that said that you... Up to like 2 minutes or more after you've been executed. There's
but not
really...
consciously. Apparently, like it's a thing. Like you chop their head off, and you can show them your body, and you're still fully functioning and being like, "Oh my god, I got my head chopped off." You know,
there's anecdotal evidence that might be true, but there's no hard facts about whether or not that's the case. Because there's also,
I mean, it makes sense because
a decent amount of doctors say that depending on the way that depending on the way that you get your head cut off is going to determine how long you're going to be conscious after you die. So if you go through if you go through like a ISIS style beheading and they're sawing through your neck, the combination of shock and blood loss, you're at the very least you're going to be unconscious by the time your head comes off. Most likely you're going to be dead.
It needs to be like a Yasuke samurai slice where you don't even know it happened. You're just like, and you're like, huh? And then again, somebody moves your head so you can see your own body fall down. And then
there are a whole lot of pictures, like historical pictures of shit like this where. So during I don't remember what period it was, but in Japan, sometime in the mid to late 1800s, something like that, you can actually find a decent amount of pictures of people being beheaded where the pictures were taken as their head is leaving their body. I don't recommend anybody look this up unless you're a sick fuck like me that's fascinated by historic pictures.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of gore, but it's still kind of fascinating.
You're
And some of those
with
pictures,
everything, Coop. You're not. The thing with history is it's all fucked up. So you're going to see some
pretty much all of it.
gruesome and graphic shit, but I think it's part of the journey. Like, I know that we did like 17 episodes on Julius Caesar. It wasn't that he killed people that got you excited. You're not a creep, but you do your due diligence and you'll look through all of it, even the naughty stuff. Because you want to have a better understanding of it overall.
If you only get the good stuff, you're going to think everything's good.
When I caught you jerking off to the beheadings, that was a little weird, but you also jerk off to all the photos.
No, that was me. That was my self-discovery. I was checking to see like, what kind of person am I? Can I actually get off to this? And I surprised myself. I'm not proud of it.
You couldn't. You could. You did, but it was hard.
So those pictures that I was talking about that were coming out of Japan of people being beheaded, in quite a few of them, right after the heads left the body, a lot of them are still making facial expressions.
Yeah.
Like they're still looking like they're in pain. So if it happens fast, I think that there's a strong chance that you would lose enough blood pressure in your brain that you would at the very least be unconscious right away. Realistically, your brain is still going to be active for a little while. There's going to be enough blood and oxygen in there to keep it active for a little while. The level of consciousness that you have is what I kind of question.
I think that if it was one slice right away and they grabbed your head and showed you your own body falling down, you would be conscious for at least 3 or 4 seconds before it started malfunctioning.
I read an account of a military veteran somewhere. He was in some like Pacific Island country, or he might have been in Japan or something like that. He got in an accident in a taxi cab with one of his close friends. And after the accident, he looked over and his friend's head was laying in the seat next to him. And his friend's body was sitting where it was originally.
Damn.
According to him, he saw his friend look at him and then look at his body and then look back at him and get a scared expression on his face before he finally just kind of lost consciousness and drifted away. So
fuck.
The guillotine isn't as fast and humane as those fucking Frenchies will have you think. So, I was going to finish my story about the pictures. So there's pictures of the Ustasi carrying out beheadings with axes where like they were timing these pictures really fucking good, where the axe is like just going into they had a lot of wiggle room for trial and error, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
And there's other ones where they're just getting ready to literally, have you seen those big double-ended saws that they use to cut down like the redwoods and shit? They've got smaller versions of those where they're just getting ready to cut somebody's head off with one of those, which means that they were sawing through the heads
over and over again.
Lots and lots of times. There's pictures of members of the Ustasi in the process of cutting somebody's throat and collecting the blood. We'll get into that here in just a second. The local clergy were also known to take part in the genocidal rampage led by the Ustasi. At a camp designed specifically to hold children, the Catholic nuns in charge of the camp were known to grab children by the legs, swing them around, and bash their heads against a wall until they died. And throughout all of this, they never showed any signs of remorse.
What the fuck?
Catholic nuns. I've heard of Catholic nuns like spanking people, hitting their knuckles with a ruler. Something a little bit different when you're picking a child up by the legs and swinging them around, smashing their head into a wall.
Jesus.
Slightly different. Thankfully, the downfall of the Nazis was also the downfall of the Ustasi. Following the lead of their German counterparts, the Ustasi rushed to destroy evidence of their crimes as the Allied armies approached. Mass graves were dug up, the bodies were burned, remaining prisoners were executed en masse, and the camps were razed to the ground. By the time the camps were discovered, all that remained were charred corpses in burned-out buildings. After the war, many of the Ustasi fled to avoid prosecution. Similar to the Nazis, thousands of Ustasi members fled to Argentina with the assistance of the Roman Catholic Church, because there were people in the Roman Catholic Church that apparently sympathized with the Nazis and the Ustasi. As long as you're Catholic, it's fine. Not saying that it's all Catholic people. I'm saying the clergy back during World War II, they're a bunch of fucking dickbags.
Yeah.
The founder of the Ustasi, a man named Ante Pavelic, or probably Pavlich, something like that, Pavelic, he was one of the many to escape to Buenos Aires. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all. In April of 1957, he was assassinated, finally bringing an end to his reign of terror. So he got shot by somebody from Montenegro, I think, and it took him like a good 5 or 6 hours to bleed out. So good shooting.
Yeah.
Glad he had time to suffer before he died. A small number of diehard believers attempted to form a resistance group and carry on their campaign for an ethnically pure and independent Croatian state, but Yugoslavian authorities were thankfully able to foil their efforts. From there, infighting fragmented the remaining Ustasi. Now, despite being disbanded, the Ustasi still remains a symbol of resistance and nationalism to some Croatians. The way that it's described, it seems like it's similar to like Nazi culture in America, where it's not a huge portion of the population that's still following it, but there's a handful of people that see it as some sort of
or the hardcore redneck Southerners that are like, we won the war.
Yeah, it's that kind of shit. And also, I have a feeling that a lot of them are probably just young edgelords looking for some way to seem cool by being like, oh yeah, I like the Ustasi.
Yeah.
Fun fact. The lead singer of the Croatian band Thompson still regularly starts concerts with the Ustasi salute. So, yeah.
Well, that could be like Rage Against the Machine style. Like he's doing it to just be like, fuck it.
Oh, fuck Rage Against the Machine also.
Yeah, fuck them.
Dude, the older I get, the more I fucking hate those guys. Holy shit. Like, I want to do an entire episode about Rage Against the Machine just to fucking talk shit about Rage Against the Machine. I like their music. Don't get me wrong. I like their music.
Love their old shit.
Zach De La Rocha and Tom Morello and whatever the fuck their drummer's name is, the guy that looks like...
Dude, we should do an episode where we pick like 3 shitty bands. We should do Rage Against the Machine, Limp Bizkit, and someone else.
Dude, all those motherfuckers...
They don't deserve a whole episode, but if we did like 3 different main big shows, that'd be good.
I have vastly more respect for Limp Bizkit than I do for the members of Rage Against the Machine. There's some disparity in how much I like their music, because I like Rage Against the Machine's music a little bit better than Limp Bizkit. But holy shit, at least Limp Bizkit, they were all just who they were. They weren't a bunch of fucking hypocrites like cocksuckers in Rage Against the Machine. Fucking every single one of those pieces of shit went to a fucking Ivy League college. They're going around all the time talking about like, oh, fuck capitalism. It's all about communism. You know how much they charge for their fucking tickets?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all millionaires.
And they were saying,
and they're all a bunch of fucking hypocrites.
Wear a mask or you can't come to my show.
Oh yeah, and now they spend all this time with the name Rage Against the Machine saying, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And then they just immediately fall in line with all the shit that's going on lately. No, fuck Rage Against the Machine.
Dude, let's do a Rage episode. We should do some bands. We did John Lennon. We've done what's his name from fucking
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, we haven't done a band yet.
We did Elvis. Dude, we got to do Jerry Lee Lewis also. Great Balls of Fire guy.
Oh no, we need to do a.
He's
band.
A piece of shit, and he's still alive.
We've never done a band. Let's do Rage.
That's a good point. Oh, I could spend a long time talking shit about Rage Against the Machine.
Dude,
again,
that'll be fun, and people need to know.
Metallica
would be a good one too.
I like their early albums, but holy shit, I have never seen a band filled with more fucking hypocrites.
If we do a band, we should do Rage first. And if we have fun, we'll do some more.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I mean, I'll take any excuse I can get to talk shit about Zach De La Roca and fucking Tom Morello.
Yeah, we can go through each member of that band and put them on blast.
Oh, God, I'm already getting mad about it. I fucking hate those guys. So the exact number of victims murdered by the Ustasi is still debated. Estimates range from 300,000 to over 700,000. It's estimated that over 100,000 prisoners were executed in Jasenovac alone. Today, the Jasenovac Memorial lists the names of 83,145 known victims.
The only ones they could find the fucking names of them.
And that's still 83,000 people, and those are just the ones that they know about. That's after they tried to hide the evidence, and that's just in one camp. So I have a feeling that the estimate of the number of deaths is probably on the higher end. I'd say around 500,000 or so. And that's still probably a little conservative. But due to the destruction of the camps, the exact figure will never be known. And that's the Ustasi. What do you think? It's a pretty fun episode, right?
Great guys, great religion, good purpose. They had drive, they had goals. I'm glad they're all dead.
Me too. There's still a handful of them alive. Still in hiding. I mean, they're going to be real old at this point, but there's still like actual Nazis alive too. I'm pretty sure the ones that are in hiding.
It's getting to that point,
at the very least. But yeah, time's going to make fools of them all, or at least kill them all off.
Dude, the chain skull thing is the worst thing I've ever heard. Like, we've done a lot of fucked up shows, and with Crime Corner on top of that, and just living life for 40 fucking years, you can, having the internet, having all this, being American, violence is fun. That still jacked me the fuck up. Oh, that fucks me up. I hate that. I hate seeing that in my head.
Yeah, I mean, using those fucking handsaws to decapitate people also.
Head chops don't bother me as much. That is new.
It's not a chop. It's slowly sawing through. Yeah.
The only way you can really chop a head off.
Wooden saw or a wood saw to cut through somebody's neck.
Yeah, the first time
it's just unnecessary.
It's tough to get through the bone the first time you cut someone's head off, but you get better at it.
By number 4 or 5, it gets a little bit easier. You got to get in between those vertebrae, and if you don't get in between the vertebrae, cut as deep as you can, and then just start kicking until the head comes off.
Yeah. I would like to say that if there's any edgelords listen to the show, don't look up to these guys. They're pieces of shit.
Yeah. Well, I'd say if there's any edgelords in the audience, either way, maybe go out and meet some people.
You don't really have to do that. Just play.
I mean, you don't have to. Just
play World of Warcraft so you can make a bunch of friends and have social events by yourself in your room. That's enough.
That works also.
You don't have to go outside. I understand it. I don't want to go outside either.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of the Iconoblast podcast. If you haven't already done it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the Iconoblast podcast YouTube channel. For every premiere that we do, Joel and I are in the live chat. We'll sit there and shoot the shit with you, tell dick and fart jokes like we always do.
Speaking of the live chat, Ruben, have you noticed that the Iconodong is in the shot?
Wait, is it?
Or you did? I'm assuming you did. Oh,
I'm assuming he did too. He's very observant.
Yeah, it's in your frame too. See it? It's in the shadows.
No. There it is.
Yeah.
So it's like Where's Waldo, but it's Where's Dildo. Audio listeners, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps us out with the algorithm, boosts us up on the charts, gets us a little bit more support overall, brings more people into the fold, into the Iconoblast family. And also you can follow us on Instagram
We're almost at 1 million audio listens.
Fuck yeah, it's about time. Speed that up. Tell your friends about the show. Get other people into the show.
Yeah.
Indoctrinate your friends and family. We've been saying that for years at this point.
Hey, that's a big stepping stone for us when we hit 1 million. But we average like 20 to 30,000 a month right now, which for us that's good. Yeah.
You could be better though.
Yes,
so tell your friends about the show. Force your friends to listen to the show. Take their phones, subscribe to the show on their phones, and I mean, we should still ideally get the downloads. I don't know. I haven't looked into whether
2 months of listeners equal the amount of people that are known that were murdered by the Astasi. Think about that.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Iconoblast Podcast. You can follow me at Coop Newcomb. You can follow Joel at Joel R. Benner. And if you like any of the merch that I'm wearing right now, I got a Drinkin' Bros hat and an Iconoblast shirt. Go to shop.drinkinbros.com. You can buy the shit yourself. I'm not going to buy it for you. This isn't a fucking charity.
This isn't a charity.
Anything else you want to plug before we go, Joel?
I don't think so. I really want to do Rage. I think that'd be fun.
I would love to do an episode about Rage Against the Machine.
It should be full of puns, and it should be like use their lyrics in their own shit against them the whole episode.
I would be just as angry during a Rage Against the Machine episode as I was during the Che Guevara episode because I see them as inextricably linked. They're all a bunch of fucking lying-ass LARPing cocksuckers. But anyway, until next time, this has been the Iconoblast Podcast. My name is Matt Cooper.
I'm Joel Benner. Farewell.
And we're reminding you to never take anything at face value. And also, fuck Rage Against the Machine.
Fuck Rage Against the Machine. That's what we learned from these people that are worse than the Nazis.
Fucking Silver Spoon, Ivy League, wannabe, commie fucking freedom fighters charging over $100 for a fucking ticket when they're already... Fuck those guys.